I am going to step down off the stage, but before I do, I want to just introduce you to a good friend of mine and Ellie's, and more importantly, Gideon's Promise and Public Defender, Rose Scott. Rose is an award-winning journalist. She is the host of the midday news program, Closer Look, which is a program on 90.1, Atlanta's NPR station, WATE. And we met Rose several years ago. She invited both Billy and I to be on her show, and has been a real supporter ever since. So we're so honored and grateful that she'll moderate this panel for us, Rose. I'll turn it over to you.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
First of all, on a Saturday, at this time, I'm usually sleeping, or watching my cats do something, but when Gideon's Promise reached out and asked me to moderate this panel, it's so important. We here in Atlanta are very proud of the work they do. As a journalist, people say, oh, you're not supposed to be an advocate. Well, it's hard. I mean, they do good work. There's nothing controversial about that. They do good work, and it's important work. So I'm honored to be here. Before we get into our conversation, before I introduce the panelists, I do think we should just take a little bit of a moment. There's been another mass shooting today in El Paso, Texas. Multiple casualties, we don't know the number. Again, I think that speaks to the climate that we're in our nation, as well as the narrative around people like me, the press, being the elite of the nation, which we most not true. So I want to just take a little moment and just say, wherever you're from, whatever community you live in, support your local journalists, those that are doing the good work, those that are being fair, those that are being objective. Support your local NPR station if you can. Support your local newspaper because our work more than ever is needed. So I appreciate your help. Consider my fellow journalists. Thank you. And if you become a member of an NPR station, you always get a pair of cool socks. So you can't go wrong with that. I'm just going to take a sentence or two to introduce the panelists. And the reason why I chose the words I'm going to choose because it represents who they are and what they do in space. Not what they used to be, but what they do in space. I'm going to start with Tyra Patterson, social justice advocate, speaker, inspirer. Tyra Patterson. Serena Nunn, attorney, advocate, podcast host, speaker, inspirer. Richard Kelly, activist, client, defender, civil advocate, very violent, inspiring. I'm not supposed to call it Illy, but I guess I just go ahead and call her Illy. Of course, is the executive director of Gideon's Promise, public defender, advocate, inspiring, sister warrior. So, and I'm going to start with you because when we get into this conversation about the role of public defenders and the whole conversation about criminal justice reform, I do want to just take a moment just to reflect over the years on what this organization, from your lens and through what this has meant for you all and the changes that we've seen.
I think the thing about Gideon's Promise is that if you would have told me years ago that we would sit in a room full of public defenders, over 250 of them, to help transform and change a system, and change the culture of the way defense is practiced here in America, I was like, whatever, I'm an educator, that's not what I do. And I think what I've seen since we first started Gideon's Promise in 2007, that there is a hunger and a need for support. And there are good people, good lawyers, good public defenders, people who come to do this work really with their whole heart. And they want up in a system that is professionally telling them to process people. What I've seen in our 12 plus years of doing this work is a rise in interest of people, young law students who want to do this work. They come in and they ask us, how can I help affect change? And that's huge. We didn't see that in 2007.
I want to stay with you for a second. This is a question for the entire panel, and that is, you mind sharing your perception of public figures in the past that obviously has changed?
Well, most of the people know my story. I didn't like them. I was 5 when I first got exposed to public defender. A public defender represented my father on an armed robbery charge because he never talked to my family, talked to my dad, looked at his history, in his process. He was part of the problem. And I didn't think that, over time, I just thought the entire system, public defenders, prosecutors, police were all in the same thing. And then I met John Rapping. He was a young public defender in DC, and he introduced me when we started dating to these public defenders who love their clients and visit their clients and say, wait a minute, who are these people? These are not the folks the public defenders know. And that was my kind of shift, that there were well-intentioned people who were just growing up in a system that was publicly processed, and that wasn't the case. If they had the support like John Rapping had in his office, they would be these dynamic lawyers. And that was my shift. It wasn't really about us, it was about what was happening in this business.
Can I ask you the same question? What was your perception of the public figure in the past?
Well, as you all know, I did not like public defenders. I was given a 43-year life sentence because of, I was represented by one. So I personally feel like they lack the cultural competency and lack the humility to ask for help. But that has shifted as well since meeting. I'm not trying to get into a fight, but it shifted when I met David Singleton, and he had this fierce attitude towards his clients. So,
I didn't care for my public defender as well. My public defender was encouraging me to take a 15 to 25-year sentence on a case that I didn't even do, like it was a bogus charge. And he just encouraged me to go ahead and take a plea deal to something he felt like, being that I had never been in trouble before, I would get off early for good behavior, not even the effects of me taking this charge, what it would do to my life and my family. So I didn't really care for mine as well, but I didn't soak in that. I made it my mission to go out and stay connected to the defenders and let them know how they represent us and what I can do to encourage them to keep pushing them forward to look at us as a human and not a caseload. Yeah.
Well, for me, my situation was a little different. So I don't think I actually had an opinion about public defenders initially. But what I will say is, being a former public defender, I can sort of address some of the, I think, feelings that both Tyra and Regina had with regard to public defenders. I feel like public defenders have gotten a bad rap. I think the system itself creates a process. It processes human beings. And when people from the outside, or even our clients, view attorneys in the public defender's office, they give the onus and the burden to public defenders as if we are incompetent in doing our jobs. And so I think that, unfortunately, when you have cases like Tyra's and Regina's, and we were having this discussion earlier, prosecutors have so much discretion that they set the tone oftentimes in courtrooms. So when you have a case like theirs, they're gonna come to the public defender and they're gonna bring us an unrealistic offer. And with regard to that offer, we then in turn have to relay that to our clients, and then the clients view us as being incompetent, like we couldn't bring them something better, and that's not the case. So I think that for me, it's twofold. One, with regard to my case, I had an attorney who was paid initially, but my family did not have the money to continue to pay him, and so he got himself appointed. So in some respects, he was like a public defender throughout the majority of my case. And then when we talk about, I think, our individual stories, the attorney that helped me later on did it on a pro bono basis. So again, that is equivalent to me as a public defender. So in my eyes, I think public defenders are great. I'm sorry, that's just my experience.
And in case you're wondering, why did we want to start with this question? Because as we get into the conversation about the role of the public defender and who has to be at the table, it starts with trust. And that leads us to the next question, because how do you build that human trust, just even an understanding of the role of the defender? And I'll start with you. I'll tell you
The trust.
trust.
I personally feel when we humanize our clients and you all come into the room and show your vulnerability, I think it helps with that trust barrier. Because oftentimes, like Regina stated, that the offer was on the table and the competencies of taking this deal and us feeling like you all don't care, that you're just doing a job and it's not your passion to bring justice. I honestly feel like you all are the gatekeepers of justice, and it's our job to have the education that we didn't have as clients. And when you bring that and we see it, and you humanize us, like truly humanize us, ask us about our families, our kids, and remember our name, and shift the narrative of inmate number, convict, felon, I think that's when we can start trusting you guys.
Yes, and also, ask us how we're doing when you walk in the room. We've just went through something traumatic, and our minds are everywhere, and we don't know what's going on in the outside world with our family, our households, or our jobs, anything. And the first person we need is police officers, judge, and our attorney. Ask us how we're doing, humanize us and be sincere, listen to us, hear us out instead of cutting us off. We understand you're on a time constraint, but just hear us out, have some compassion.
I would say one of the things when it comes to it is, yes, you are representing the person that's in front of you in the intake room or in behind the courtroom, but you're also behind them as a family. And I think often, and I'm here because I have not been incarcerated, but my brother, my father, and actually every single man in my entire family has been a victim, I would say, of the criminal justice system. And one of the things that did not happen, I know your time is limited, but no one even asked us about the impact my dad gave on the path. And it was huge. My mother suffered a few bipolar episodes. We were almost homeless. We ate sardines and crackers for a while, and because the breadwinner was gone. And I think sometimes when you can talk to the family members, they can paint a much broader picture than even sometimes the person who was arrested, because they're so traumatized right now, they can't tell you all the good things about them and their loved ones can. So I think that's a really important piece that often gets missed when lawyers are trying to find information and background about their clients.
So I just wanted to add a couple things. One, all of the young attorneys here, you are so fortunate to go through Gideon's Promise in their program right now. And the reason why I say that is because when we talk about all of the issues in terms of being a defendant or a client, Gideon's teaches you to practice client-centered representation. And the things that most clients are calling out for, as was mentioned by, Illy and Tyra and Regina, those are the things that you learn through Gideon's training. You learn to represent your client based on your client, based on what they're thinking, what their feelings are, connecting with their family members. Because as Regina says sometimes, and Illy, that when you go through a situation like getting incarcerated, it's traumatic. And then you can't sometimes get your story together, even when you're being questioned. You don't know what's going on the outside. And oftentimes your lawyer is the only bridge between the person who's incarcerated and the outside, even for their family members. Because a lot of the clients that you'll represent, they won't have the finances to make phone calls. I mean, we've had clients before, and I'm sure Anna is here as well, that was one of my trial partners, they couldn't afford a stamp. And so that being isolated in a jail, in a cell, and relying solely upon your lawyer is crucial for the lawyer to then understand sort of where the mindset might be for some of your clients. I also wanted to mention, when you're dealing with your clients, remember that when you're in court, it's easy every day to understand what's going on, right? Because the judge says certain things, the prosecutor says certain things, and your response is certain things. As a client sitting there, the terms that we the legal terms that we throw around in a courtroom, for them is very difficult. It's sort of like being shuffled in, and then this whole conversation is taking place. You're an object sitting there, they're discussing you, and then the sheriffs are coming back, the deputies are like, okay, and they're putting you back in cuffs and they're shuffling you back out, and you're looking like, what just happened? I don't know what happened. So I know that for some lawyers, it's difficult, they'll feel like, hand-holding, I can't do hand-holding because you have an unrealistic caseload typically as a public defender. But if you focus or don't forget about the human side, you can always offer just that reassuring, touch on the shoulder, or you're about to take you back to the cell, I will come back there, I'm going to talk to you and I'll update you on what just occurred. Or sometimes when they're tugging at you, just ask the court for a second and listen to what your client has to say. Because those are the things that will build trust between you and your client, which ultimately helps your defense.
Do you agree with you with, both of my
Yes, I'm in agreement with that as well. It's just the small things, the little things that make a difference. As we discussed yesterday, using acronyms, now that I now work in a law office, we use a lot of acronyms. And I'm like, oh, now I get it, And prior to that, I would always sit in these rooms with a bunch of attorneys and all I hear is acronyms being thrown back and forth. And I'm like, what does that mean? What are they saying? It's like a foreign language. So just don't forget to take the time to, break it down for your client and help them understand the process that they're going through. We often take everything that we're learning for granted, not knowing and understanding that everyone is not getting that same quality of education that you're getting. We're on different levels, so just don't forget to think about that.
I just want to say the same thing as Regina. From a personal experience, I didn't know how to read and write. I was 11 years old when I dropped out of school. When they came with these big words and didn't believe me, my own public defenders didn't believe that. I didn't know how to read or write, and I kept telling them. And I know they didn't take the time out to say, well, let me explain it to you, because I am teachable. And your clients are teachable if they don't know. Sit down and break it down with them. And make sure that they understand it, because it's an embarrassment to say that I don't understand that, or I don't know how to read or write. So make sure that you have empathy for them if they don't know how to read or write. Break it down in the simplest forms. I was talking with Kenneth this morning at breakfast, and he said, we use these words, as Regina said, that the cops use. I'm getting booked. No, you're getting locked up. And it's a way of explanation that will help us as well.
Can we shift to talking about the importance of understanding the population, the demographics, the people that you are here to work for? Often we hear about marginalized communities, communities of color, African communities, Hispanic communities. Can you each reflect on the importance of the public defender to understand the community, the cultural differences, and ethnicities that are people that you are representing, and to respect and learn about that if possible?
So, one of the things, this is for the non-public defenders in the room. I claim you, because I'm not a public defender, I'm not a lawyer. And so for those of you who don't know the statistics, 80% of the people who come through the system qualify for a public defender. That means they live below the poverty line in the jurisdiction where people practice, 80%. Of those 80%, 1 in 3 African American men in this country, 1 in 3 will be affected by the criminal justice system, either arrested or permanently incarcerated or in jail. 1 in 6 are Latino men or women. And so 27%
of the rise of women incarcerated. As well as 27% of the newest cases are women and primarily women of color. And so I go to Fulton County Superior Court, which is here in Atlanta, because our office is here. And I take all of our interns, these are high school kids, who are doing this legal program, and they work with Gideon's Promise for the summer. And I always take them so they can understand what it truly means and to really see what I'm talking about or what they think they see on television. And one of the interns said to me, Ms. Billy, they're all Black. They're all chained. And most of them are men. And we went to another courtroom, and it was the same concept. And what's even sadder about that is the other day I went to, I guess it would be considered misdemeanor court. It's mostly young people, ages about 18 to 27 years of age. And the judge had 70 cases before them. And these are folks who got in trouble for minor offenses. Some of them serious, right? Some of them serious, but it was young people. They were 20 years old, and one young woman, she said, I can't read the book you assigned to me, Judge, because I have struggles reading. And this judge, which is actually a very fair judge, said, okay, we need to find something you can do. But if you don't read this book and do a book report, you're facing 20 years. And I'm not sure what the offense was, but we are doing this to young people who eventually become Serena's clients and your clients. And so I'm seeing an increasing level of juveniles come through the system for crimes that when we were all in school were not crimes. And so we took a point with Gideon's Promise to really expose our high school students to that, because now I'm seeing in Superior Court, right? So these are cases, these would be felony cases, seeing these young people, and then later on, some of them returning. And for those who work in Fulton County and Atlanta, they become your adult clients, they become your more serious clients. And so that is one of the turning points, and I think it's one of the reasons we have 2.2 million people incarcerated in this country.
I agree.
I think it's the disparities of people of color. I think we lack the representation of authority. We don't have enough judges, prosecutors, and police. We lack that. So if we lack that, we lack the understanding.
In my community, I'm the outreach person for our office, and I cover 10 counties. And my mission, my goal, working in our office is to connect our lawyers with the community, because there's no trust there. So what I do is we set up clinics in housing projects, monthly, go out and have meetings where we discuss evictions, since we get a lot of eviction cases, or expungements or non-disclosures, things like that. And this is just to build a bridge of trust, because I swear, like many, I do not believe in public defenders. I felt like you had to pay thousands of dollars for an attorney if you didn't want to go to jail. If you get a public defender, you're automatically going to jail because they're making deals with the DA. Like, that was my understanding. And that understanding is what our community has as well. And I feel like so many people have been burned by public defenders that there is no more trust. In our office, it was not perfect, and it's taken me a year to build the trust up in the community for our office, because it's such a lack of respect there, because people get turned away, they get treated differently, and so I encourage everyone, if you haven't taken implicit bias test, I'm not sure if you guys have heard of that, but that's so important, so you can connect with your clients that you're serving, because if you don't know what's actually going on in their communities and the things that they are facing, if you've never been in their shoes, how can you properly service them? How can you properly and truly understand what they're going through? It's not just all legal terms. There's a human side to this. And I just feel like all defenders, your office, everyone, you should stay connected to the community that you serve.
I want to say this, and I don't think she'll mind me sharing this. Mary Moriarty was doing some good work in Minneapolis, where
the defenders were going into the communities. Because I think the other challenge we have, we always expect the communities to come to us, right? Oh, they should come to our office. We're gonna throw a party at our office and introduce the public defender office to the community. No, go into the communities. I did that as an educator, right? Go in. And so Mary went into the community and she was just kind of a know your rights session, explain what the office is doing, what they offer, how they're here to help the community. And she said after speaking for about an hour and a half, a guy comes up to her and says, you know, I had this problem, I had a terrible public defender and blah, blah, and just ranting and raving about the public defender. And then said, you know what, he did not get me that settlement on that car accident. And Mary realized, oh my God, I've been talking for an hour and a half and never even gave a definition on what the public defender does. We assume that the communities that we help, that we're there to support, they actually understand what you are doing. And so I'm so appreciative of, you know, I think we have Defend Nashville that's here in the house, and Minneapolis is in the house now, Maryland is doing these things, where they are going out into the community and introducing themselves. And that's another way to build trust. The other thing I want to notice is, you know, I go to courtrooms and I got to go to Charlotte and I go to Dallas and a few other places. And with my interns, they sat and watched court. And I know I'm picking on Fulton County Court, but I'm going to do it. And they sat and watched court and they were like, oh my God, that lawyer is terrible. But that lawyer over there, they're really, really good. So the lawyer that was terrible was actually a private counsel that someone had hired. And the lawyer they're talking about that was good was from the public defender office and happened to be, we just fell on it, was from Gideon's Promise. And I said, oh, that's one of my babies. So I say all that to say, Rose, is that the perception of public defense, it is changing. And I think Gideon's Promise, and I'm a brag on this, you are all out there changing it. And I think if you go to the communities and get to know them, then they will have trust in you. And I see it happening now in courtrooms across the country.
And I'll just add to what Illy said. I think one of the huge things is just having cultural sensitivity, right? Understanding who you represent and understanding sometimes the way people do certain things. You know, so in Black communities, oftentimes other lawyers would complain like, oh, you know, he's always asking for his mom and he wants to get information from his mom. But you have to understand that in most families, most Black families, sons, especially sons, they are very close to their mothers, right? And so instead of sort of maybe being judgmental about it, gain an understanding of how Black families function. And when you do have situations like court, you might have, you know, 10 or 15 family members coming and they'll all be trying to talk to you, you know, cousins and uncles and aunts and stuff like that. But just having an understanding about the culture of the people that you represent, I think that's important as well. And that's something that all of them touched on. I do want to give a shout out to Mary Moriarty. I am from Minneapolis and she's doing a wonderful job up there. And the other thing I wanted to address was, I know that you were saying, you know, people being burned by public defenders. One thing that I found helpful in practicing was explaining what public defenders do. Because I was darned, I did not curse, I was darned if I was gonna stand there and allow someone to speak badly about public defenders, because I knew what type of passion I had in my heart to help. I knew what type of passion a lot of other lawyers in the public defender's office had to help, Anna, Jessica, I mean, there's tons of other lawyers here who I learned from. And I needed the clients to understand, you cannot call me a public pretender and you cannot call anyone in my office a public pretender. But at the same time, I understood that they did not understand that we are real lawyers. For some reason, a lot of people in our communities, and I say mine because I come from the inner city of North Minneapolis, believe that attorneys in a public defender's office are not real attorneys. And they did not go to school. They don't think that you have a license to practice. And so taking that time to just sort of explain that and say, listen, you know, most lawyers in the public defender's office, they can leave, they can hang their shingle out, they can do whatever they wanted to do, and they get charged exorbitant amounts of money for the services that you're gonna get from a passionate public defender. But it helps them understand, oh, okay, so you are a lawyer, and then the respect, there's a different level of respect that you get, but now you've also started to bridge that gap, and you have that understanding, because now you're being respected as, I know you know what you're doing, so I will listen to what you're saying. And that sort of helps you in terms of your fight and what you're doing to, gather information in terms of the defense.
I'm gonna take some time around because it's kind of a small story. Everyone present. And I think that I can retitle this perseverance very well. Tyler, I'm gonna start with you because, during your days in university, did you think I am going to get to the other side? I'm going to do this. How did you? What did you do?
I did. I knew my day was coming, but I didn't think it would take 23 years. So I wanted to prepare myself. Remember, I said I didn't know how to read or write. So I educated myself, and I had friends inside who was stranger that became my family. And I utilized that, and I utilized the institution. So whenever you have clients, make sure you say, take advantage of those programs that they're offering, because it not only will help them in building their case, it will also help them to be their best advocate. I don't know, I feel, I was taken by a string before David Singleton came into my life, because I did have that public defender, and they didn't show me that they was an attorney. So I had a different experience, and they did not care. I never seen the inside of a courtroom, and I was facing a murder case, and they visited me no more than 3 times. So they showed me who they were. It wasn't about my perception of them, because I had no run-ins with the law, and I had no run-ins with attorneys or public defenders. So once they showed me who they were, I believed it until I met David Singleton. And when he went his extra way, and we all can do this, to go outside of the community and say, hey, meet my client, humanize her. And he didn't use the words inmate or felon or she's a number. I think that makes a big difference. We can advocate in different varieties, bring people who can make a difference in our communities, whether they're Republican, whether they're liberal or Democrat, it shouldn't matter. Bring them inside the room so that we can be heard, so they can start whispering about that client that's in there that you're representing, because it makes a difference. And it made a difference for me. It gave me hope. It gave me an extra breath to keep moving forward and saying somebody out there cares about me. Never in my whole entire life, from that 11-year-old girl when I lived up under a bridge, cared even if I missed a day in school. Not one person. And it continued, because then I went to prison. Started with my public defender, right? The one person that was supposed to protect me. So, I don't know, it starts within us first, and our public defenders or attorneys to start caring.
Gina, let's talk about not giving up, perseverance, and grit. How you got through it? What'd you do?
For me, giving up just wasn't an option. Like, I never considered giving up. It was, what can I do to help myself get out of this situation? And I wasn't waiting on someone to come rescue me, save me. I was one of those people who always believed right is right, wrong is wrong. You don't get in trouble, hang around the wrong crowd, you don't have to worry about getting locked up. But unfortunately for me, that wasn't true. And so that kind of took my belief away with the system in that aspect. But I also hung on to what my mom told me, to just never give up, no matter how hard it gets. And the public defender that I had, even though he was the worst of the worst of my experience, I decided to not stop there, and just set him to the side and just help myself get out of that situation. With the help of my mom, getting me home. And from that, I would say my saving grace was ACLU, who taught me, different aspects of the law. And my director in my legal service program, who taught me different things. Like, they knew I was young, I was vulnerable, you know, and I come from the projects. I was young, 24 years old, you know, a mother of 4 girls. And I had never experienced what I was going through before. At the time, I didn't even know I was going through depression and PTSD. You know, I didn't realize that was the name of that until years later, you know. But giving up just wasn't an option because I have children that look up to me. I wanted to fight for myself.
Serena?
So just to give you the 30-second version of my story, when I was 19, I was arrested and later convicted in federal court on drug conspiracy charges. So we had a case that involved about 24 co-defendants, and this is when mandatory minimum sentencing guidelines were very new. After serving about 11 years in prison, President Clinton commuted my sentence. And after my release, I got my bachelor's degree from the University of, Arizona State University, and my law degree from the University of Michigan. And then I became a member of the Georgia State Bar, and I went on to practice as a state public defender. During my time, I did have moments when I was incarcerated that I just wanted to give up, right? And I would have to say that the attorney that wrote me a letter one day after he read an article in a newspaper from my hometown and said, listen, I believe that you have a 1 in a million shot of being commuted by the president. Maybe we should proceed, you know, this way, and I'll do it on a pro bono basis. When I received that letter, that changed my whole outlook, right? Because again, even though he wasn't a public defender per se, providing free services, legal services to someone after being incarcerated almost 8 years, that's equivalent to being a public defender, right? And the passion and the drive and the tenacity that he set forth during my particular case inspired me to want to go on and provide that same sort of advocacy and representation to other people. And again, like I said, I had my high moments, I had my low moments. I always believed that I was going to be blessed in some way. While I was incarcerated, I'm a very spiritual person, and I did believe that God sent him and blessed me with the attorney that I had. But I would definitely say that after being released, I did meet a lot of obstacles in trying to become an attorney, and Illy and John can attest to that. And the reason why I mention them is because they were very integral in supporting me and inspiring me and encouraging me to continue even when I felt like it wasn't gonna happen. And that leads me to talk about the support system that I had. I think that I've been able to persevere because of the support system that I've had in place. I have not done this by myself. I can't even count how many people along this journey who have played a role in helping me become successful. But again, I count my success through how many people I can be a blessing to and who I can help.
These stories, Tyler, Regina, Serena, they're not lost on you. I see you hear these stories all the time. But let's talk about the support for public defenders. And we've had this discussion on our program before, what programs are out there, resources for the public defenders who may, we'll scare about it, experience stress.
Right, I told you don't scare my babies.
I'm not gonna scare your babies. It's a positive
New
scare.
lawyers, my new lawyers in front. So the thing about it is, and I know we're talking about the challenges that we all had on the stage about public defenders, but the positive flip to all of this is Gideon's Promise. And at the end of the day, I think some of the supportive things we do, everyone in this room that's touched by Gideon's Promise, whether they're a leader of a state system, local office, a mid-level manager, a brand new attorney, a line attorney in your 4 years, 5 years, when you leave Gideon's Promise for whatever program you are assigned to, you're gonna be the best lawyers. You're gonna be the best trial lawyers, even though no 10% of cases actually go to trial. You're gonna be the best negotiators. But the most important thing is to be the best advocates. And I think, and I can't remember who said this, but law school teaches you the law, but it doesn't teach you how to advocate for people. And so what Gideon's Promise has done is we have this comprehensive model that it's a special secret sauce that I think even after 13 years of doing this, I can't really articulate it. You have to feel it. You have to be in the room. But it all goes back to what Serena was saying, is being client-centered. So you're gonna learn pre-trial. You're gonna learn what happens at pre-trial. You're gonna learn negotiation. You're gonna learn voir dire. Don't forget I'm not a lawyer. You're gonna learn preliminary hearings. And to this day, I still don't know what they actually do in preliminary hearings. You're gonna know all of that, and we provide that. But the other part we started to incorporate in our organization is we want people to remain in this work. Because you cannot have culture change. You cannot have a shift in culture change if you don't have an entire office and the system working together to make that change. And in order to do that, you need retention. You need good, committed, caring lawyers to stay. And so we have a wellness program. We institute health and wellness. We institute everything for small groups. If you are, a lawyer that has a young family, that's a whole other set of challenges. We provide opportunities for our lawyers to say, hey, this is a challenge. These are the challenges I'm facing. I want to continue to be in this fight, right, in this struggle, but this is where I need support. Mental health, substance abuse, all of those things we try to incorporate. We talk about race, we talk about class, we talk about gender, we talk about all types of diversity. And we weave that into our programming. So when I say it's a secret sauce, and sometimes they don't even know we're doing it. We're doing it to you right now.
It's in the sauce.
It's in the sauce. But those are things, it's a comprehensive, and people across the country have always taught that Gideon's Promise is a training program. We are not just a training program. We are a community of people who see wrongs being done every single day, and we are transforming. We are a movement organization.
That's great here in Atlanta, in this region. But what if you're in Waterloo, Iowa, just came to my mind. But what about Waterloo, Iowa, and the other regions that could desperately use a program?
Oh, Rose, let me tell you who's representing the room.
Is that somebody?
We have, no, not from there, but we're working on Iowa. I think one of our faculty members is from Iowa, if I'm not mistaken. But we have people in New Iberia, Louisiana, St. Tammany Parish. We have people in Nashville. We have Columbia, South Carolina. We even have folks who are in El Paso, Texas. We have folks in Houston, San Francisco. We have our rural communities in Robeson County, North Carolina. We are all over the country. And we target areas that have the greatest challenges, right? We don't skirt from our responsibilities. So we are all over the country. So the people that are represented in the room are not just from Atlanta, they're from all over.
I want to add some of the sauces that Elle was talking about. She forgot to mention that not only does she invite you all to the space, she invited politicians. We have a federal judge in the house. Thank you for coming. We have those who have been closely impacted. I've been coming back for 3 years, and it's a lovely thing because when you add those entities, it only gets better.
And I just want to say, I do a lot of traveling, and I do a lot of speaking engagement at different defender offices and things like that across the country. And I always run into someone from Gideon's Promise. Always. And it's the sauce on them is just completely different from anybody else in the room. And you just know, okay, you're well taken care of. We don't have to worry about you because you're already equipped with the things that you should know. It's just different. You guys have a swagger on you that is just different from anyone else. And that's a great name. That's a great name.
And just, having gone through Gideon's, the one thing that I would talk about with regard to stress, the beautiful thing is that you get to come back, right? You get to come back and you get to discuss whatever you're feeling, cases that you're dealing with, difficult cases and things that you're dealing with your classmates. And your spirit gets renewed, right? You get rejuvenated and you're able to go back and continue to participate in that fight, because anybody who's a public defender can tell you, you have down days. I mean, it's just the reality of it. Unlike a lot of other professions, we take our profession home, our work goes home with us, right? You're in the shower, you're thinking about a motion you need to file, or if I need to run to Anna's office and ask her, how do I do this? What questions should I have on voir dire? You're always thinking about it. You can't just separate yourself or divorce yourself from a lot of the cases that you deal with on a regular basis. And we're human beings, and we can't forget that, and sometimes it gets heavy. But the beautiful thing about Gideon's is you get to come back and you get to see familiar faces, you know, and I'm not gonna disclose everything that transpires during that entire class. Right, during that time, but you will have an opportunity to be able to rejuvenate and, you know, start your fight anew. And that's one of the things that helps you deal with, I think, the stress and the feeling of burnout while you're practicing as a public defender.
Before we get to taking questions from the audience, I want to end with something that someone mentioned, allies. And the importance of allies, and for the soon-to-be public defenders or the public defenders. And someone may say, well, do I have allies? Who are my allies?
Yeah. So one of the things is, you know, what I noticed in this movement in recent years for criminal justice reform, and there are people who are talking about reforming the system, everything from the police force to the judges to the prosecutors, and on the far end, which I really do love, is, you know, people who are returning citizens who are going back and reentry programs. But still, in this height and in this climate, the public defender is often absent in the national conversation. If you all take a look and go on Facebook and Twitter and all the other stuff y'all do, you can see in this national movement, the public defender is often absent. And so allies are important. We are in the trenches, and I'm sorry, I designated myself an honorary public defender when I married John Rapid. But we are in the trenches in the ground, and we need people like Tyra and Regina and judges who are, you know, who understand, and community leaders and corporate leaders. Oftentimes, the people who are listening are the people who are not the lawyers. They listen to those folks and the message, and so sometimes they're unlikely allies. And I think it's critical as public defenders, we do tell people about our work. Sometimes we get very insular and we don't share, but if people don't know what we do, we will always remain absent from the national discussion. And so one of my hopes about doing this is to really shed some light that there's some very good people who are really making huge sacrifices to represent people who have no voice. And those people will continue to have no voice if we don't find these allies and we just don't insert ourselves in the national discussion. And that's what we need to do.
I also think that we're missing philanthropies.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
I think we are missing very conservative philanthropies. And we need to be able to talk with them, get in the room with them and change their mindset. Because once we change their mindset, it will change their behavior and the way they think about our communities and why things happen and the judgment of it.
One thing I would like to see more of, I'm a client first before I'm anything, I love our client community, and it's my job and my duty to make sure that we always have a voice at the table when having discussions about us. But one thing I would like to see more of is not just African American clients. I would like to see Caucasian, Latino clients, you know, sharing their truth. Because it doesn't just happen to us in our community, it's happening everywhere in all minority communities. So I think it's very important that you guys get those voices and those stories as well told. But before we stop, I wanna encourage you guys. I know the workload that you have is so hard, and sometimes it's just so draining, and you doubt yourself, and as you want to quit, you just want to give up, and it's like, I just can't take this anymore. This is just not worth it. You're trying to do the right thing, and you know, in court, and sometimes you get defeated because the whole world is just beating you down everywhere you go, you know, and that's hard and it's draining. But I ask that you always remember what brought you here. What put you here in the room in the beginning? That passion that you started with, never let that fire die. You know, there's a purpose. There's a purpose behind you being here. There's a purpose behind you choosing to do the work that you do. You chose this, you know. And so I just ask that you never forget about that. Take those mental breaks when you need them. You know, self-care is very important. Take it. You need it because you guys are fighting a very important fight, and we need you.
I'm sorry, can I add to that? how could we forget the victims? The victims' families, we need them as allies. We need to start talking about mercy, grace, and redemption. What we do at the Ohio Justice and Policy Center, we represent those who are guilty. We need victims. Their voices are just as important as our clients, and our clients' voices are important. But if we don't have them, our fight is going to have to be much harder. So have compassion for them.
Absolutely, and that can come in the form of restorative justice, and I think that that's another movement that's really taken hold. But I think that it's important for public defender offices across the country to start bridging the gap with the community, based on some of the stuff that Mary Moriarty is doing. I think that's important because community extends to organizations. And then there's also, the interest in votes, right? And when you have a ton of people coming together about a particular issue or a concern, then you start getting the ear of the lawmakers because they have a self-interest usually in continuing to stay in the seat that they're in. So anyway, I would say that the allies that you wanna, create are the ones in the community, just reaching out. The public defender's office is doing more of that type of work going out into the community.
We have a few minutes for some questions. If anyone has a question, we have a process for the questions.
Yes, I'm not Abram, I'm out of Mississippi, and I spent, I'm a retired United Methodist minister. I spent about 20, 30 years in prison ministry. Most of the men and women I worked with was high school dropouts and had public defenders. And in Mississippi, a lot of the prisons are private prisons. And most public defenders have so many people on their caseload that they never see the people until they go to trial, and they never read the case. And I'm not saying they're bad lawyers, but in Mississippi, they're overloaded. What do y'all do about that?
So one of the things is we train our lawyers. So we do not, Gideon's Promise is not a policy organization. And so we partner with organizations like the ACLU and the Southern Center for Human Rights in Atlanta to sign on and help with legislation, to help lower caseloads, to help make sure public defender offices have resources. So we as an organization do not have the power to really affect all of that. We partner with organizations that do. But what we do say to our lawyers, our public defenders, and I hope I do this well, is that there's a huge gap, right? It is the aspiration of how we want to represent our lawyers. And then there's this reality, right? We're not going to get to every case, every client, and give them the best possible defense they deserve. Your case loads are too high. But if we represent one person and give them 100% and the next person, and we start to, closing that gap, then we'll start to have reform. But what we are doing is really trying to bring more people that are sitting in this room, more public defenders, to stand up in their courtrooms and say, no, we are not going to do this anymore. No, we're not going to have, shout out to Michael Gregory, our clients gagged in the courtroom. It's unconstitutional, it's not there. And so to answer your question, sir, is what we are doing as an organization is working with other organizations that, whether they are community, whether they're nonprofits like the ACLU, whether they're corporate institutions, to start sitting and going to the Hill and really fighting and bringing community advocates like Regina and Tyra to the table to say, I have witnessed and experienced what it's like for my public defender not to have the resources. So that's what we're doing. But we are in Mississippi. We work with the Jackson, Mississippi office, Hinds County. And we have a number of the state public defender has been sending lawyers to our program for a number of years. And we're trying to bring more and more people into the program. Another question?
I have a question.
Okay.
Hi everyone, I'm Anna. I went through Gideon's Promise many years ago and was a public defender for 11 years, and now I work doing criminal justice policy. And my question to all the panelists is, now that I'm doing policy, the number one thing that everybody wants is stories, right? Like the only way we change policy is through stories of folks that are affected in the criminal justice system. And I'm wondering what your vision is for public defenders to tell that story. I know Rap and Illy, this is something you guys have thought about for a long time. I'm wondering from Serena, Regina, and Tyler, what do you think is the best way for public defenders to tell stories and amplify stories of client experiences? Because I know that very often we can sit in a room like this and there's wonderful stories, but what is the best mechanism? Do you envision the public defender offices have someone responsible for that? Do you envision that every public defender does it? Do you envision that public defenders have training in writing op-eds or talking to media? What's the vision for how to best amplify client stories so that they have a wider impact beyond the folks that we already are just talking to?
Well, I think, being a public defender, your time is always limited when you're dealing with your clients. But when you get the trust of your client, they have a tendency to open up to you. And that's when I think you use that opportunity to get to know who your client is so they are not processed. They are not just another number, another case, another number. And you humanize your client to the judge in the courtroom or wherever you're discussing your client's case. I think that you have to use your relationship with them to get the information so that you're able to tell their story. And I would imagine that, the way Gideon's teaches you is to storytell. That is a way that you can, I think, better represent your client by making sure you are humanizing your client to judges and other people. Nobody's gonna know your client's story better than you, right? Public defenders know their clients. Your client goes into a courtroom, nobody else there knows them better than you because you are the one that meets them, you discuss everything with them, you find out about their family, you find out about their dreams, their hopes, what sort of outcome they want with their particular case. So I would imagine that when you realize or that you work towards building the trust with your client, getting their story that way and then sharing it.
I think you should steal the defense from the prosecutor. Something David taught me, and I'm utilizing it now, and I was so mad at him when he wanted to say the bad things about me being homeless or me not knowing how to read or write, or the little things that they could have said. Look at her, she's such a bad person. She was a dropout or whatnot. So David created this platform to say all of the things that the prosecutors was going to use against me. And he did a storytelling. And storytellings are very important because, like you said, nobody knows your client as best as you. But don't forget to be transparent in your client's wrongdoings. If they have done something, they stole a candy bar when they were a little kid, tell them why they stole that candy bar. Say why they were hungry. Don't hide the truth, because the truth is going to come out and it is going to be used against us for our clients. So although I got mad at him and I didn't think he was my friend, or for a minute I was like, I hope he's not one of the public defenders that represented me, but he took everything that he did from the prosecutors to use.
And I think another thing is, we at Gideon's Promise really try to get stories, we call it stories from the field. Your stories and your client's stories, and we share them when Rap and I and other members of our faculty go out and talk to communities that are not in the criminal justice space. I spend a significant amount of my time going to non-legal events. And for the most part, it's with people who haven't even been touched by the criminal justice system. They feel like if you did something wrong, you just go in there, tell them the truth, and you can go home. And that has been a theme that I've heard a lot. And so I think for us, storytelling is important, but you gotta tell the stories to the people who have the contacts and the voice to put it out there. Like I said before, it's like the secret thing is going on and the rest of the world doesn't know. And the way we have to pump it out, and really right now, is through social media. I mean, that's why I'm always so grateful for Rosa's show, because we get an opportunity to tell these stories, to tell your public defender stories, right? And to tell the stories of your clients. But we don't know if you don't tell us. And so that's really important. And you can get an email in a couple days to ask to share your stories. And it's important. And sometimes you have to dig deep and be vulnerable. But that is what catches the eye of the people, because they simply do not know. They just don't know.
Is that it for the questions? I just want to add in something as a member of the media, because it's not my job to tell people what to think or how to think. We want to get all sides of the stories. Don't lie. You don't want to answer a question from a journalist, say, I can't answer that right now. But please don't lie. You will find out the truth. Look what we do, right? Just, if you build a reputation for journalists that you can trust, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Just tell the truth. You know, if there's something that, and understand, does anybody know what off the record means? Because everyone that doesn't understand what off the record means. If you don't understand what off the record means, find out what off the record means. But educate yourself about what we do in my job as well. You know, some of us do it great, some of us don't. Just to be very honest. So educate yourself about the news media and the outlets in your community. It's very important. And tell your story on NPR, because it'll get you.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. For those of you that don't know, I was telling Rose before we walked in, I was like, you know, I did an interview on NPR years ago, and that's how I got my movie deal. A production company heard me sharing my story, and they immediately contacted me afterwards, and it was like, we want to share your story on the big screen, and we do a movie about you. So please share your stories. People are out there listening and paying attention, even when you think they're not.
I cannot guarantee an Oscar, I'm just saying. I believe that is it for the questions. I know we ran a little bit on time. That's what happens when we have a journalist lead discussion. But Ilhan, I'm gonna let you wrap it up. But I first want to report you all, please just give a round of applause to you.
Say that, you know, I hear a lot, there's this big progressive prosecutor movement, you know, they now are woke, and they've been saying things that we've been saying all along, right? And a lot of times you often hear that the prosecutor is the most powerful person in the courtroom. I don't believe that's true. I believe the power of the public defender has the most power, because you have human lives in your hands every single day. So there is power in public defenders. You are powerful human beings. And I want you to know that I love and respect you, and you need to carry that. And just like Regina said, y'all walk in with a swagger that no one has seen. We need to keep doing that and push our movement forward and our message forward in the national discussion. And so I thank you all for spending time with us, for hearing our stories, and just keep on keeping on.